Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm really excited to bring this to you today. I'm going to talk to you about materials and why you don't need a huge amount in your toolbox to create realistic drawings. Now, I've been an artist now coming up to 6 years. I would say I'm in a professional stance. I draw for people all over the world. I go do live wedding paintings, which is really exciting. And I also teach, and I've been teaching on Patreon since 2021. And we have the most incredible lessons on that. And I'm going to show you some of the work that we've done. And I'm also going to talk through what materials we use for them in hopes that it helps you guys to go out there and buy really good materials without spending a huge amount of money. A lot of artists will say, oh, you need all these tools and all these examples of all these expensive things, but you truly don't. Depending on whether you're going to go and stay as a hobbyist or whether you're going to enter into competitions or sell your work to people all over the world will really vary on what type of materials that you should be looking for. And I hope to be able to cover most of that with you today. So without further ado, let me show you my materials. Let me show you some of my work. And if you've got any questions, please let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think of the video. And also please subscribe and please let me know if there's anything that you would like me to cover. So without further ado, let's have a look at what I use. So we're going to start off strong here. We're going to talk about paper. So paper is really important. So as I said right then, if you're looking at staying as a hobbyist, if you find a brand of paper that you really like, stick with it. So my go-to for a very long time was the Daily Rowney Bristol Board Smooth, which is this sheet that you can see in front of you. And over the years, we've produced some of the most beautiful work on that on my tutorial channel. So I'm going to bring in one example of that. This is one of my most advanced lessons. So when you look at my Patreon channel, it starts off as beginner friendly and then we move all the way up to high advanced work. So this is one of the top end pieces and this is on the Daily Rowney Bristol Board Smooth, and it was such a wonderful piece to do. This is Tembo. He's an African elephant from Colchester Zoo who I had the very fortunate life experiences of being able to work alongside the elephant keepers. I never worked with the elephants, but I saw Tembo every single day when I was a zookeeper. And I really wanted to kind of bring something in that was really detailed and really not only challenges my students but also challenge myself, because I'm terrible for creating tiny details, but you really had no choice when it came to doing like the cracking of the skin at the top here. So on this particular tutorial will be no different than working with one of my beginner friendly tutorials on the type of materials that we use other than one tool. There'll be one tool difference between them, all of them. So if I bring in something that's more of a mid-range tutorial, this is Asani. He's a big cat, I believe from the Big Cat Century, but I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to double check it. And the difference between these two on terms of the tools that we used, when you look at the whiskers here, we actually used a like a styling tool. Some of the whiter hairs in his mane here, we also used that cutting in tool as well. But in terms of like the materials and the paper choice, we have always used the Bristol Board Smooth. The reason I went for this particular brand of paper is it didn't have a huge amount of tooth. I'm not somebody that likes to work with toothed papers when it comes to graphite, because I feel like you have to go incredibly dark to achieve the level of realism that I would need. However, the press has changed on this paper. So my advice to you, when you find a brand of paper that you really like, buy it in bulk, because it will change eventually, and unfortunately this is what's happened here with the Bristol Board Smooth. So it is something that I'm now working away from. If I bring in a current tutorial, we are still working on the Bristol Board Smooth. So this is my current 4-part series, and this is aiming toward, this is beginner friendly, so my light is going to reflect on the graphite. And we are working on 4 different elements, so 4 different types of eyes. So we've got a horse eye here, we've got a side profile of a cat eye, we've got a dog eye next, and then finally we'll be doing an elephant, which is really exciting because if you look at our elephant Tembo, his eyes are closed. So it's really nice to bring in something different. And the idea behind using the Bristol board for this is I kind of wanted to see whether my thoughts and feelings behind the paper were true. And all I do is complain about the paper when we're working with it in this, because it is truly not what it was. When I did Tembo, it was it's still really perfectly placed. Like the the press was the old type press. So this was my new pad because I've run out of that, and unfortunately it's just not what it was. Though, as you can see, we can still create really beautiful realism. It's just a little bit more difficult. So the plan with this is to, I've done the 2 eyes now, that's 2 1-hour sessions, finish the other 2 sessions, and then if I fancy it, I might go in and just fill in a little bit more around some of the eye here, so we can kind of work on some like the skin, fur, and this is like a mix of skin and fur, or hair I should say, for horses. So Bristol Board Smooth is a wonderful paper. The paper that I'm going to be moving on to is actually a toothed paper, and this is something that we use for our colour tutorials. So this, you can see the colour difference straight away. Even though this is extra white, it's actually classed as a soft white. And this is the Fabriano Artistico Hot Press watercolour paper. I have been using this for many years for my colour tutorials and colour like commissioned work. It is a wonderful brand of paper. I can bring in some examples here. So here's the first example. So this is a Fox in colour pencil, again one of our tutorials, and then I've got like a reindeer. This is again another tutorial. This is Ronnie the reindeer. And these are wonderful for colour pencil. So here's Homer, again another tutorial of mine in full colour pencil. So for colour pencil, this is a wonderful brand of paper to use, and I've really loved the whole process of behind colour pencil in terms of this paper because it accepts so many layers, and it's a wonderful brand of paper. It's archival, so it's going to last an incredibly long time. It's not going to tarnish over time, and this is something I've always used for colour. I can get right in there, I can get it fully burnished, and I could still probably add more to Homer here. But I am moving over to graphite, so I'm just going to bring in something that's original of mine. So this is my current rodeo piece for my Western series. This is more about the cowboy than it is the horse. It's kind of why I haven't really got much of the horse in there. And I just kind of wanted to show you that it is a wonderful brand of paper to use. It melts like butter, the graphite. It's so beautiful, and you can still create texture. And from a distance, you can't really see the tooth of the paper unless you really look at it. So this has been a labour of love, a complete difference, and it's something that I'll be moving my tutorials into. But paper is really important, and finding the brands that you like to work with are equally important. And I do strongly recommend you find a brand of paper that you like, stick with it, buy it in bulk, keep it forever. So this is paper. I hope this kind of gives you a help on the paper side, and I'm going to show you my other materials now. So let's bring in some of the other materials. So let's bring in the pencils. So these are the pencils that I use to create all of that detail in my graphite work, like whether we look at Hassani here, or if we look at, let's bring out Tembo again. This is all I use for my pencil work. You do not need millions of different brands of pencils. You do not need tons of different varied degrees of pencils. You only need 4. And I really love being able to show you this. So if you do a tutorial with me, we don't go past the 6B. You can still create that detail, that level of depth throughout just by using these 4 different pencils. So on here, I've got a 2H pencil, which is more clay based. I've got a 2B, a 4B and a 6B pencil. So the B has more graphite in, it's more graphite heavy, which is why you get like that grainy softness, and then this has your clay in it. Now when you layer these correctly, they lay so beautifully. The clay and the graphite really like mix in together, and then you create all this beautiful softness. You don't need the darker ones unless you really want to go dark on something. You really don't. In terms of like brands of pencil, I use the Staedtler Mars Lumograph. Big fan of the Staedtler Mars Lumograph. I've been using these for many years. In fact, I haven't used another brand of pencil since before I began. A lot of my students, they will use like mechanical pencils and things like that. If you find a brand of pencil that you like, stick with it. In terms of like graphite, I don't feel like there's a brand of pencil out there that's better than others. It's just some feel nicer, and it's definitely down to a personal opinion. But you only need 4 max pencils to create realism. The other thing that you need in your toolkit are blending stumps. Strongly recommend all different various types of blending stumps. You get a massive pack of them and they come with different sizes. Your smaller ones help with the finer details, like if I was going to go in this area here, and then your bigger ones help with like big spots of areas like this to blend this sort of area in. Or like even if we were like blending in the skin here, we'd probably use like something like this mid-range one. There's no right or wrong in terms of blending stumps. There are better quality ones on the market than others. I think I spend like every so often like £13 and I get 2 packs of these in a pencil case. And I really like them. As I said, there's different types. So you can get like these half ones. These are they're all just rolled up paper basically. And then you can get these ones. I do like the level 1 ones, as I call them, the hash ones. But they do bend easily because obviously when you're holding them, you're gripping them, you're going to have a bend at like this sort of part of your blending stump there. But blending stumps are great. A lot of people use like cotton buds, some people use tissue, other people use fingers. I try not to put my hands on the paper, especially with Bristol board, because when you get fingerprint and oil marks, unfortunately they do transfer into your drawings. But I'm not saying that it's incorrect if people do it that way. It's just something that I have taught myself not to do, so I always use blending stumps. With your blending stumps, you'll get like this bit of sandpaper, and that's how you clean them. So you rub your ends against these, and then that's how these become clean. Otherwise, if they're really, really dirty, you then get graphite spots on your paper, and they don't really help you with your drawing. It's not really the end of the world. You can work with it. I sometimes use like the dirty blending stump to create like detail, like here you can see like it's quite a bit smudgy, or even here, this is a wonderful example where I had a really heavy dirty end and I just used it to like create like these like markings. So it can be really beneficial, but most of the time I keep these clean. The next really important tool are your rubbers. So I use 2. So literally I only have 2. First of all, this is a putty eraser. Many different brands out on the market. Again, you don't need the most expensive. This is the Winsor Newton, I think that's right, putty eraser. I like how it's a little bit tougher than some of them. It's not it's not really that forgiving, and that's why I like it. I create like little corners with it, so like I'll make like a triangle with the end and I'll use it for like you see these white spots, I'll use it for those sort of things. Or especially like in these like grooves where I want to just pull out a little bit, I'll just like dab it in. So this is a perfect tool to have in your kit. And then the most important tool is the mono eraser. Again, so many of these out on the market, so many different brands. I always use the same one. I use the Tombow mono eraser, and I use the round tip edges, and that's how I create like really, really fine detail. I'll move Hassani over, such as like creating like the whiskers and the tiny bits of hair coming through. This is what this is for, and that's how you create those little areas of detail. It's important to keep the edges clean, and I tend to do that by having it flat to the paper and then creating circles until the edges are completely clean, and then it sharpens the edges, and then I can go back in and do more hair detail there. But this is probably, these are the most important tools that you need, as well as a paintbrush. So when you use like your eraser, you're going to have a lot of shavings around, and I use it to brush away. Same with like graphite deposits, especially when you use like a 6B, it leaves a lot of residue, so I brush that away with a paintbrush, and I make sure that my paintbrushes are separate and different styles between my colour and my graphite, so I don't mix them up. So other than that, you don't really need anything else in your toolkit. You need paper, blending stumps, pencils, and a mono and your erasers. But I do have one more item. So this is a craft tool. It is bent at the end. I sat on it. That's basically it. But the craft tool is wonderful to create things like whiskers. So you can it's an indentation tool. So you can indent your page, and then when you go around and you're drawing, your graphite won't necessarily go straight into the areas because it's deeper into the page. So basically you're creating a tooth in your paper. And then once you've kind of like gone through a few times with your graphite, it will start going in. So then you marry that up with your mono eraser, and you can really pull out the whiskers. So again, if I bring Hassani in a little bit more closer there, you can see how white those whiskers are. You can't really see it because it's quite far away, but he does have white whiskers on the other side here. There are lines there. They could probably do with a little bit more lightening with the mono eraser. But that's how you can create things like, you know, little grooves over the hair. It's so wonderful for furry animals, especially like cats and dogs, anything with whiskers. It really does help, and I also use this in my colour sessions as well. But in terms of graphite pencil, that is it. You do not need anything else in your toolkit. There might be other things that other artists use. It's not no right, no wrong, but I really hope that kind of gives you some sort of idea of like what best to have in your toolkit. If you are going to go down the route of doing lots of drawings, something else you can add are things like glassine paper, so that you can have that, you can get big sheets of it and you can put it under your hands, then it won't rub. So it's not tracing paper as much as it looks like it. I don't recommend tracing paper for this purpose either, because tracing paper is toothy, so it will pull up your drawing, but the glassine paper is not. So it will really help. So I use that to like magnet down my drawings to my table. I put it under my hand when I'm drawing. I also use a glove. Again, this is such an unnecessary thing for you to buy. You don't need to. So I have a half hand glove, and I put that over on my glassine paper, and then I'm not rubbing in my drawings. So there are other things, extra things that you can add in after. If you just want to get going, I would recommend just starting off with that. Blending stamps, pencils, putty eraser, mono eraser, and paper. That's all you need to get started. These are all just extra bits, but you can add in later. But you can find all of this on places like Jackson's Art. I'm a big fan of Jackson's Art. You've got Cass Art, and you've also got things like Amazon, so on and so forth, where you can pick up all these tools. So I really hope that helps. If there's anything else that you'd like me to discuss and show you, I'd be more than happy to show you everything that goes on behind the scenes, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. If you're interested in my tutorials, you can find them in the description, or you can find them on my page. Please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you comment and you like my video. Thank you so much, and I hope you have the most wonderful day today. Take care, and bye for now.